Hello, and welcome to the Arcata Marsh. This program is going to talk about how it works because the marsh was built by human beings and is used for a specific purpose for the city of Arcata. My name is Elliott Dabill. I happen to be president currently for Friends of the Arcata Marsh, and I'll be walking you through the program. So there we are at the north end of the North Bay of Humboldt Bay, and nearby cities are Arcata and Eureka. The Arcata Marsh, as you can see from this picture, has several bodies of water. Some are freshwater, some are saltwater, like saltwater marshes, and others are brackish, or a combination of the two. You can see yellow lines through this map that are the trails that people use to walk their dogs or jog. And the dotted line going through the middle of the marsh is the coastal trail. There are pictures coming up. The city of Arcata owns the Arcata Marsh, and Friends of the Arcata Marsh are folks who work with the city to educate the public both on the marsh, how it works as a machine, and natural history, like birds here at the marsh. This is the interpretive center. It is basically a small museum and meeting room. You can get information on natural history, like the water cycle. There's a bird wing size poster outside. This is more on the water cycle. And people ask, well, what can you do at the marsh? You can jog or walk your dog. There are children's programs during the summer. We're next to a university, so there are scientific studies going on all the time. For example, Jeff Black is studying otters, and there are 2 or 3 experiments going on at the marsh right now. This is the paved coastal trail that connects Arcata and Eureka, although it's under construction right now. But in the marsh, it's complete and paved, so suitable for bikes or wheelchairs or whatever. A lot of people come to the marsh for bird watching. This is Tom Leskew in the front leading a tour, looking at birds. Over 350 bird species come to the marsh every year, and there's quite a variety. Upland birds like warblers would use this prairie. This is called Mount Trashmore. We get shorebirds all around the edges of the marsh. We get a lot of birds that come on the Pacific Flyway and land on these marshes and feed up, getting ready for the rest of their migration. Ducks on the ponds, that sort of thing. And now finally, why was the marsh built? Well, you can't miss this structure when you're walking around the marsh. It's huge and it's full of poop. This tower is called the digester, and it's a symbol, because you can't avoid it. It's a symbol for why the marsh was constructed in the first place. The city of Arcata uses the Arcata Marsh as a wastewater treatment plant. So let's walk through some of the steps for how that operation works. This is the headworks, these 2 ramps that you see. And what happens is pipes carry raw sewage to the bottom of that. And if you look through the grates, you'll see a screw. Let me do a close-up. There's the screw in action, and it's lifting raw sewage up to the top of the headworks. And what happens then is the solids are taken out and put in that big digester tower. The next step is this clarifier, where the water is calm enough for more solids to settle out, and then they are pushed into the digester. It's about to be replaced. Here's the drying barn. A couple of times a year, the used up poop is put into these beds and dried out, and then it's composted by the city and put on city yards like golf courses and parks and what have you. They won't let the public have this. They don't want the liability. Notice the tomato plants. It turns out tomato seeds will go right through you and not be destroyed. So when they empty the poop digester tank, these seeds can pop out and tomato plants will grow in natural fertilizer. For some reason, nobody wants those tomatoes. Now we have to treat the water, and that's this singular, unique purpose of the Arcata Marsh. This is the first city in the world to use marshes to treat wastewater. How the wastewater flows. So here's that map of the Arcata Marsh once again. Now, stay with me because I'm going to turn this map and overlay it with a graphic that's a little easier to read. And now I want your attention to be on that little box in the middle. It says CL for chlorine, as in chlorine treatment to disinfect the water. Right there. So we're going to talk both about how the marsh works as a huge machine and the construction that is happening. This is 2024 when I'm recording this, and we're in the middle of a 3-year construction program to upgrade the marsh. Important things are getting rid of the chlorine and changing to ultraviolet light for sanitation, and upgrading a lot of the mechanical operations at the plant. These channels you're looking at on the left are what's called the chlorine contact basin. The wastewater flows through these channels and chlorine is injected into it, and this gives it time for the chlorine to contact all the water and kill any pathogens that are in there. That's being replaced by ultraviolet lights, and there they are down in those pits. Here comes a close-up so you can get a better shot of those ultraviolet bulbs. So they use electricity, but they're not as dangerous as chlorine gas. So everyone is in favor of this upgrade. Last year, 2023, I photographed these machines. This is a huge drill. And what you're looking at, that rust-colored tube, is 30 feet long. And they had to drill a hole in the mud and sink that sucker and then fill it with concrete. And there are 24 of those. Imagine the expense. The purpose of those are footings for this. This is going to be an electrical substation that will have all the electrical connections for the various aerators and pumps, and there will be backup generators there. Okay. So that was some of what's going on at the plant itself. Now let's follow the water. First thing that happens is the water goes into the huge oxidation ponds. They are about 5 or 6 feet deep. And the upgrades there will include up to 40 of what you're looking at right here. This is an aerator. And the chain of floats is electrical connections to power it. So there will be a ton of those in the first oxidation pond. The second oxidation pond has this wall in it. They tested the flow of water and found that it was going too fast. So to slow it down, they built this wall and it's doing its job. Birds love it. It's a nice roost while they're waiting for food to come by. After the oxidation ponds, the water flows into the critical treatment marshes. This is the heart of the whole treatment system that the Arcata Marsh invented. The marshes are being upgraded in a couple different ways. Oh, there they are in a view from the sky. That lateral network of green marshes are all the treatment marshes. Here they are from the ground. What you're looking at is a bunch of plants. You can't really see the water in it. And that's the point, because the water, the wastewater, has come from the oxidation ponds where sunlight and oxygen do some of the nutrient removal. And now you're flipping everything around and running the water through a dark pond that's covered in plants. And it works like this. You can see cattails and bulrushes there. The water is coming in that white pipe on the left side and flows over the stems and roots of these plants, which are covered in bacteria. As you know, bacteria are the great chemists for life on Earth, and they will break down organic nutrients and change some of the other things like nitrogen and phosphorus. This is the secret world that does it all. This is a picture from the Interpretive Center. And in that middle circle, you can see Daphnia. It looks like he's holding his arms up over his head. Daphnia are tiny little crustaceans that bounce around in the water and are called water fleas. You can see crustaceans, there are fishes. The big workers in this environment, however, are the bacteria that don't show up on these pictures. But we want people to know that this is the secret of the Arcata Marsh. This is how it works, is this ecosystem under the water does the work that, that other cities pay big money to treat the water with. Okay, we're finished with the treatment marshes. Now the water flows through those three yellow marshes. They're called enhancement. They weren't part of the original treatment, but they, as the name suggests, they enhance the treatment of the marshes by removing some extra nutrients, nitrogen and phosphorus. Big upgrade here. We're going to change the system from the way it's worked for 40 years. Still, now the water will run through all three marshes, but the change is that from Hauser Marsh, it's going to be pumped to the newest marsh, Brackish Marsh, and there exit the facility out into the ocean. This is the south end of Hauser Marsh. And if you can see three concrete walls in the water, those will collect water and send it to the pump. There's the old pump station, and the water will be pumped out to this pipe that was just being installed last year to the Brackish Marsh. And where you see all that gravel, here's a closer view. This is where the water now empties into Brackish Marsh. And as it flows through Brackish Marsh, it goes out this gate at the bottom of the screen, out into the salt marsh and into the bay, because the water has been treated and is cleaner than the ocean water. You can see an egret testifying to that right there at the bottom. Okay, what about the future for the Arcata Marsh? I mean, this upgrade that you've been looking at cost in the neighborhood of $60 million. So naturally, the city of Arcata is concerned about the future because sea level rise and what will happen. The yellow-green areas you see in this picture are areas that will be submerged. This is, if you're local, this is all south of Samoa Boulevard. Those areas will be flooded relatively soon because the sea level is rising, and it just happens that Arcata Bay and Eureka are sinking faster than any other place along the California coast. So the sea level is coming up and this locality is sinking, meaning sea level rise is going to hit us earlier. Okay, so if all of that water floods the green areas, the city of Arcata is proposing to protect the red zone. They're calling that a protected area. And that means armoring dikes like this, build it up with stones so that it can't be eroded away. It also means these brown edges you see are living edges. In other words, plants will be planted there and grow to protect those dikes once again from erosion. Finally, as this woman is happy to show you, this is a wildlife sanctuary. And one of the problems we deal with all the time is cats that escape from people's homes and come out to the marsh and kill wildlife, mammals, birds particularly. But domestic cats, we love them as pets, but they're deadly predators out at the Arcata Marsh. She knows that and is walking her cat. So what can you do if you're interested in doing more at the marsh than just taking a walk? You can become a member. You can lead tours or staff the desk. And we just happen to have a couple of seats open on the board of directors. So that's how the Arcata Marsh works. It's the first place in the world to use nature and marshes to treat wastewater, which saves money, it's more efficient, and it produces a city park-like area for the citizens of Arcata and visitors to enjoy. Thank you for watching.
So awesome.